Hi everyone and welcome to this video. Today we are going to make this lovely macrame coaster. It's fairly easy and fast to make, and the best part about it is that it looks good on both sides. Let's get started and quickly go through necessary materials and tools. First of all, I find it very handy to use a cork board or a coaster with a couple of pins so that you can keep your project in place as you're working on it. Next, we will need around 4.5 meters of macrame cord. I'm using 5mm braided cotton cord from Bobbiny. We will need a pair of scissors and a measuring tape or ruler. Optionally, you can use washi tape to make the end of your working cord a bit sturdier. And lastly, we will need a needle and a thread of matching colors so that we can hide and secure the ends. And this is pretty much all we need. We will start by cutting our first base cord, which should be around 15 centimeters long. This is going to be the inner circumference of our coaster. We are going to fold this cord to form a circle so that there is approximately a centimeter of intersection. Using the needle and the thread, we are going to secure this part. Thread your needle, fold your thread in half and make a knot. Next, make a few connecting stitches. This part is going to be covered by our working cord, so don't worry about the look of it. Make a few knots and cut off the thread. Now we have a closed circle and we can start working with our next piece of cord around it. We are now going to make the first round of lark's head knots. And if you count them, you will see that we're going to make 9 in total. For that, we will need a piece of working cord that's 120 centimeters long. First of all, take a pin and secure our base in place. Find the cord end and fold it so that there is a short tail left. Next, we're going to make our starting lark's head knot, and the easiest way to do it is to hold your cord like this and dive with the loop forward into the ring. We can cover our connection point first. So now that your loop is on the other side, you can pull 2 tails through it, like so. And tighten the knot. Make sure to hide the connection point of our base ring with this knot. Next, we are going to work with the longer tail and we will make 8 more lark's head knots. To do that, we will follow 2 simple steps. Our first step is to take our long tail and dive into the ring, and then pull out the tail. When you tighten this part, make sure to leave a little ear in between our knots. Don't make it too tight. There should be enough space for our working cord to fit through later on. Find your tail again. And this time we are going to dive under the ring. Pull out the cord and dive back into the loop. And this is how you make a lark's head knot. Try to make all your knots approximately same in size and tightness. Once again, First we dive into the ring with our cord, leave a little ear. Next we dive under the ring and back into the loop. Tighten the knot and make sure there is a little ear left. Continue until you have 9 lark's head knots. When you have 9 knots, you should come to the point where our first working cord end is. And now we are going to cut these tails and we want to sew them in the middle to match the size of the little ears between each knot. Once again, this part is going to be covered by the working cord in the next row, so don't worry about how pretty it looks. Cut off the thread and shorten the tails. We have now finished our first round, and if you look closer at the following round, you will see that every second lark's head knot is done into the ear between knots of the previous row. I will explain how to do that in a second. First of all, let's secure our first row in place, and we are going to take the remaining cord. If you'd like, you can cut off a piece of washi tape and tape one of your working cord ends to make it a bit sturdier. Next, find the other end and estimate how much of the length we will need to go around the first row. And then add a little tail so that it's easier for us to work with ends after we've completed the row. Mark that spot and pin it. So the short tail will be the base of our second row and it will go around the first row. You can go ahead and pin it to form a circle. Our long tail will be our working cord for this row. If you have a look at our coaster, next to the lark's head knot of the previous row, there will be a regular lark's head knot of the second row. And whenever we reach the ear, we will make a lark's head knot into the ear between the knots of the previous row. We are going to start with a regular one. So find your working cord and make a lark's head knot around our base cord. In the beginning, it's going to be a bit hard to work with such a long tail, but it will get easier. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this time every ear we make is going to be a bit larger. You can use a pin to help yourself tie the knot while leaving this gap between each lark's head knot. Go under the working cord and back into the loop. And tie the first knot. So now we have a little starting loop and our first regular lark's head knot. We're going to align them to come closer to the first row. Following the first row, we are now coming to the first ear in between two knots. And what we're going to do now, rather than simply looping around the base cord, we will loop as well around the ear. That means that with our tail, we are going to dive right into the ear. And this is where the washi tape comes in handy. And now we are coming out of our loop. Once again, don't forget to make a larger ear and use a pin to help yourself. To finish this knot, we will go under the base cord and under the ear and come out of the ear. Dive back into the loop. Take your time to adjust the knot. Alright, and that was our first lark's head knot into the ear. Next we are coming to the regular knot in the previous row, so we are going to make a regular knot in this row as well. Next we come to the ear again and we dive into it. And into the loop. We go under the base cord and under the ear, diving into it from the bottom. And then we dive into our loop from the top. I hope you understand the principle by now. Regular knots loop only around the base cord. Knots into the ear loop around the ear as well. As you can see, the knots into the ear are slightly larger, but as long as all of these stitches are on the same level and forming a circle, your coaster will look more tidy and symmetrical. Complete this row interchanging regular knots and knots into the ear until the end of this row, and leave 3 empty spaces in the end. So you should leave 2 ears and 1 space in between them empty. I will meet you there to show you how to finish off the coaster. So now all is left to do is 2 stitches into the ears of the previous row and 1 regular stitch in between them. And before we do that, we are going to cut off our base cord in a place where it intersects with the very first ear of this row. And we are going to sew it to the ear. cut off the thread and cut off the excess tail. Now we are going to finish the remaining stitches. This was the ear we sewed in the previous row, so now we need to hide this connection point. Next, a regular stitch. Now all is left is to make a stitch into the ear of the previous row. And we will do an extra step here to seamlessly close the current row. We start by diving into the ear like always. And we come out from the loop. Don't forget to leave the space. Normally we would dive into this loop from the bottom, but this time we will first dive down into the first ear of this row. And now we are going to drag our working cord under all of these cords and come out from the ear. We will return into this loop. Now we just need to tighten the knot. And as you can see, our coaster is now seamlessly closed. All that is left is to cut off this tail, but before we do that, we can sew several times through this connection point so that the cord is secured in place. Now we can cut off the working cord. Our coaster is now ready. You can still go ahead and adjust individual knots and loops to reach a more symmetrical look. You can hardly see any loose ends anywhere since we hid all the connection points. You can use the coaster on both sides, but I personally prefer the wrong side. It kind of has this beautiful lace-like look to it. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a like and make sure to check out my DIY channel. I have lots of other fun crafting projects and tutorials that you can check out and get inspired. Thanks for watching, and till next time!